Chapter 292. Cold Dark Water. What is it? Xiaoyan walked up to the jade cabinet with doubt in his heart. As he arrived in front of it, his body unconsciously felt a chill. A trace of surprise flashed across Xiaoyan's face. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that this jade crystal cabinet was different from the others. It was even thicker, and when he touched it with his hand, a spiritual light actually flowed across the surface and knocked his palm away. A formation has been deployed on this jade crystal cabinet to prevent the cold air from leaking out. You better not try to touch it. While Xiaoyan was admiring the jade cabinet, a calm voice sounded behind him. Xiaoyan turned around and saw that it was the robust young man who had spoken to Elder Wang earlier. Formation. What's inside? Xiaoyan frowned and looked closer. Due to the frost fog, the small words on the side of the jade bottle looked extremely blurry. The burly youth looked at Xiaoyan and said expressionlessly to this unfamiliar face, "This is the cold underworld water. It has an extremely yin attribute and is extremely harmful to cultivators below the emperor level. That's why it's sealed with a formation. Yin attribute." Xiaoyan was shocked when he heard this. He raised his eyebrows and looked at the jade cabinet again, and his eyes began to show a hint of excitement. When the robust young man saw this, he snorted coldly and said, "Don't think too much. The Academy has specifically forbidden the use of the frigid underworld water in competitions. Otherwise, this thing would have been bought a long time ago." As he finished, the young man glanced at Xiaoyan. Just as he was about to leave, he turned back and added, "Moreover, ordinary people really can't afford it." With that, he casually left. Xiaoyan paused for a moment, then looked at the jade cabinet again. Through the layers of frost, he seemed to clearly see the price tag on the nameplate, 150,000 spirit origin stones. 150,000. Xiaoyan couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. That price was enough to deter most people. After a moment of thought, Xiaoyan exhaled slowly. His face twitched slightly as he finally made up his mind. He had to buy this today. Since it possessed an extreme yin attribute, it might be able to neutralize the yang attribute of the flame mantra burning spell while he cultivated the yin scroll. Having decided, Xiaoyan no longer hesitated, and his mind began to stir. With the cold dark water and the previous star moon immortal copper, it would be impossible to purchase both for just 250,000 star moons. Thinking of this, Xiaoyan's expression changed. He looked at the storage ring on his hand. Back in the capital of chaos, he and Yuan Shenmu had killed a leader of the Kangri group. According to Yunlo Academy's rules, killing someone ranked on the fierce ranking would be rewarded accordingly. However, he wasn't sure whether Li Yin's ranking was high enough to earn the missing 50,000 spirit origin stones. When he arrived at the entrance of the main hall, Elder Wang was sitting in a chair, reading a thick book. Since the young man named Zhu Tianhou left, no one had used spirit origin stones to exchange for items all day. For an ordinary elder like him, this was an extremely leisurely job. This student wishes to exchange for the cold underworld water. "Elder, please take it out." Elder Wang was pulled from his thoughts and looked up in dissatisfaction. When he saw Xiaoyan, he frowned, clearly unfamiliar with him. Cold dark water. Upon hearing Xiaoyan's request, Elder Wang's expression turned strange. Even he was a bit fearful of the price of that thing. Why was this guy so rich? Let me be clear. The Academy strictly forbids the use of frigid underworld water during competitions. If you're caught, both you and I will be severely punished. Elder Wang cleared his throat and spoke in a stern tone. "The student understands," Xiaoyan replied with a smile, lightly touching his storage ring. Elder Wang opened his mouth and tried to calm himself. He stared at Xiaoyan for a long while and said in a low voice, "Kid, in my impression, there's no one like you on the soaring dragon ranking in the inner courtyard. 150,000 spirit origin stones. I advise you not to waste it." Xiaoyan smiled noncommittally and said nothing. A bright flash appeared in his hand as he took out a spirit origin card and handed it to Elder Wang. Seeing Xiaoyan produce the card, Elder Wang's face was filled with shock. He took it and checked the amount. The sheer number left him dizzy. Enough, enough. Elder Wang was at a loss for words. After shakily handing the card back, he stood up. Just as he was about to leave his chair, Xiaoyan placed the Star Moon Immortal Copper on the table. This as well. Count it in. Star Moon Immortal Copper. Seeing Xiaoyan take out another treasure worth 100,000 Spirit Origin Stones, Elder Wang nearly lost his balance. The items he thought no one could possibly afford were now being presented by this young man. It totals to 250,000 Spirit Origin Stones. Elder Wang's voice trembled. He had worked at the Spirit Pavilion for nearly 10 years and had never handled such a massive transaction. I wonder how much this is worth, Xiaoyan asked, and with a flick of his finger on the storage ring, a head, completely devoid of life, fell onto the table. Seeing the lifeless face, Elder Wang wasn't too surprised. Xiaoyan had used a special method to preserve it, making identification easy. Some students nearby were drawn by the commotion. They glanced over, and when they saw the head on the table, their expressions shifted. He can kill people on the fierce ranking. This guy's really strong. The heads on the fierce ranking are rewarded based on their strength. Even the weakest fetch 10,000 Spirit Origin Stones. Some of the students looked at Xiaoyan enviously. With their strength, they wouldn't dare venture into the capital of chaos. Every month, they relied on the Academy's 100+ Spirit Origin Stones allowance and barely scraped by. Even when they came to the Spirit Pavilion, they only dared to look at the cheapest items. Hiss. After recognizing the head, Elder Wang sucked in a sharp breath. It was his duty to memorize the faces of those on the fierce ranking. That's why he immediately identified who it was. The leader of Kangri Group, Li Yin. He spoke in a trembling voice. Elder Wang stared at Xiaoyan, heart shaking. Who was this young man? How could he have killed Li Yin? Li Yin was widely known as the most talented elder of the Kangri Group. His strength had reached the peak of the sovereign realm. Yet, he had fallen at the hands of this young man. Seeing Xiaoyan nod indifferently, Elder Wang's hands trembled slightly. He took a deep breath, and a thought flashed through his mind. He had heard from other elders that the Saint rank trial participant from a few years ago had recently arrived at the academy. You are. His arrogance disappeared. His voice trembled slightly. That's right, it's Li Yin. I heard he ranked pretty high on the fierce ranking. I wonder how many Spirit Origin Stones he's worth. Elder Wang glanced at the calm and indifferent Xiaoyan. After a brief silence, he slowly extended 4 fingers. 400,000 Spirit Origin Stones. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.